Aloha everyone. So it's no secret that Maui real estate has had its fair share of controversy and challenges over the past couple of years. Tourism on Maui is still recovering from the Lahaina fires in 2023. There is proposed legislation to phase out half of the island's short-term rentals, which has created a lot of uncertainty in our condo market. And on top of that, mortgage interest rates remain elevated everywhere in the United States. So what does this mean for our real estate market here on Maui? In this video, I'm going to share the statistics that help us to answer whether or not the Maui real estate market is crashing. And to make it a little more interesting, we'll also see if artificial intelligence or AI can also answer that question. I'm really curious to see if my assessment will agree with what AI has to say. But before we can determine if any market is crashing, we first need to define what exactly is a crash. So I started by asking ChatGPT what percentage decrease in property value would be considered a real estate crash. And it starts by saying there really isn't any single official threshold that defines a real estate crash, but there are some generally used benchmarks. A general rule of thumb is that a 10 to 20% decline in property values is often considered a correction and not yet a crash. However, a 20% or greater decline in property values, especially if it happens over a short period of time, is commonly considered a crash. And it goes on to say that a true crash has other indicators as well, like a rapid increase in foreclosures, distressed sales becoming common, credit tightening, high inventory levels, and negative equity. ChatGPT also shares the example of the U.S. housing crash during the 2008 financial crisis, which saw home prices drop by about 30% nationwide, and some areas being hit as much as 40 to 50%. So next, we're going to take a look at a chart that shows us property values for the overall Maui real estate market over time. This chart is created using data that was provided directly from the Realtors Association of Maui. I like to use it because it has data going back more than 20 years, all the way back to 2005. And I should also point out that I am using a 6-month rolling average, which looks different than the month-by-month charts that most people look at, but this allows us to recognize the trends easier. Let's go back in time a little bit to observe what a real crash looks like by looking at what happened on Maui during the Great Recession. The most drastic drop in values happened between April of 2009 and November of 2011, when property values for the overall market went from a median sales price of $577,000 to $360,000. This was a decrease of 38% over a period of 31 months. Okay, now let's go take a look at more recent data to see what happened to our real estate market over the past few years. According to this chart, we reached our peak property values in August of 2024 when the median sales price on Maui was $1.22 million. And as of July of 2025, the property values have come down to a median sales price of $1.1 million. This is a decrease in property value of 10% for our overall market. So based on our definition of a real estate crash, we are just starting to enter the correction territory, but we definitely would not consider this a real estate crash. However, there is definitely more to consider when analyzing a market than just looking at the general numbers. If we separate the condo market from the single-family home market like I did on this chart, you can see different segments of our overall real estate market on Maui are performing differently. In this chart, the blue line shows the single-family homes, and the red line is the median sales price of the condos on Maui. Typically, these two markets follow the same trend. However, you can see that starting in July of 2024, the condo market has declined in value, while the single-family home market continues a modest climb. And when we crunch the numbers, the single-family home market has increased 4% over the past 12 months, while the condo market has declined 19% over the past 12 months since its peak. So we are getting rather close to a real estate crash in the condo segment on Maui's real estate market. So if we only consider the decline in median sales price, we are getting close to what would be considered a crash in the condo segment of our real estate market. But we should also consider the other crash indicators that ChatGPT mentioned. Let's quickly go through the list. Currently in our market, we are not seeing an increase in foreclosures. Distress sales are not becoming more common. Banks are not pulling back on lending, and most owners still have strong positive equity even after the recent pullback in values. So the only crash indicator on this list that we are seeing in our market is an increase in inventory levels. And I think it's clear that the biggest factor that is contributing to the decreased value in our condo market is the proposed legislation to phase out short-term rental condos that are in apartment zoning. Of course, because of this, the apartment zone short-term rentals are getting hit the hardest, with some selling for 35 to 40% lower than their peak. However, some of the hotel zone condos that would not be impacted by the proposed legislation are also seeing a more modest pullback in sales prices that are closer to 10 to 15% range. And this is what is creating a golden opportunity for buyers to buy the dip. In this market, buyers have more properties to choose from and more negotiating leverage than typical markets. The way I see it is just like the stock market. You want to buy when stocks are at a discount, not when they're at all-time highs. And perhaps the most important point that I can make in this entire video is to remind everyone that Maui is one of the most beautiful and desirable places in the entire world to both visit and live in. And that's the real reason Maui real estate is always going to be considered valuable, regardless of the short-term uncertainty. But that's just my personal opinion as an ordinary human real estate broker. Let's see what AI has to say when we ask if Maui real estate is crashing. This is what ChatGPT had to say. The final verdict is that this is not a crash. A crash usually implies a 20% plus broad-based drop in property values triggered by systematic issues like foreclosures or economic collapse. ChatGPT goes on to say that on Maui, only the condo segment is seeing declines that near that threshold, while single-family homes remain resilient or even gaining. Local analysts describe the situation as more of a correction than a collapse. And broader data for Hawaii's housing market also indicates an overall unlikely crash scenario in 2025 due to strong demand and limited long-term supply. It goes on to say that buyers, especially those that are looking for condos, now have more negotiation power, but due diligence is key, especially with the upcoming short-term rental regulations. And for investors, condos may offer long-term upside if short-term rental rules evolve favorably, and homes in strong neighborhoods remain a solid bet. And finally, it gives us a summary table showing the different property types. Condominiums are in a correction territory, single-family homes are stable/resilient, and the overall market is not in a crash, it's just cooling and shifting to a buyer-friendly market. So there you have it. ChatGPT and I agree that we are not in a crash. The single-family home market is stable, while the condo market is in a correction, and our overall market is just cooling. We also both agree that this is a buyer-friendly market with long-term upside potential. That being said, I'm curious to hear what you think. Let me know in the comment section below. Also, if you appreciate this sort of analysis, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe for more in the future. And if you want to receive my monthly email newsletter that includes Maui's monthly real estate statistics and other video updates delivered directly to your inbox, there's a link in the description to sign up. As always, feel free to contact me directly if you are in the market to buy or sell real estate anywhere in the Hawaiian Islands, so we can schedule a time for an initial consultation to get you started in the right direction. I hope to see you all on the next video. Aloha.